Welcome back, everyone, to the GDFL podcast, hosted by yours truly, Andrew Korn. I'm just going to get right into it. I don't have a guest this week. So, big week across the GDFL. Starting at the top here, I beat Beans 103 to 99. Stun beat Shrew 129 to 117. Sokol beat Ryan 129 to 125. Levi lost to Jake 122 to 90. Chaz beat Logan 157 to 74, and Mark beat Trevor 177 to 111. So starting at the top here with my matchup, uh, I started both Kittle and Mike Evans this week. I forgot they're both still injured, and they both put up a whopping 0 points. And I sat Devontae Smith, and he set a career high in receiving yards this week, so that was fun to see. I thought it was a pretty good benching since no receiver had more than 65 receiving yards all season against Minnesota until this week. But turns out that was a horrible start-sit decision, and learned my lesson there. Yeah, I mean, my matchup with Beans, I thought I was going to win pretty handily going into Monday Night Football. We were pretty much tied, and I had Nico Collins, Rashad White, and Mike Evans left, and he just had Nick Chubb. Nico, White, and Evans combined for about 10 points. Luckily, Beans for me against Beans, Chubb had about two. Yeah, Beans just kind of had a bad week overall. Not having Lamar this week was a huge loss on his part. Up next, I have Stun versus Shrew. See a sleeper notification. Anything important? Nope. Okay. Stun versus Shrew. JSN keeps balling out. That's really the biggest thing with Stun's team. I mean, he came back to earth a little bit, but still had a damn good week. And then Saquon, Brian Thomas, and Waddle all kind of had disappointing weeks this week. And then for Shrew, Hunter and AJ Brown both had pretty good weeks. Travis Hunter had his first career touchdown, which is good for Shrew. AJ Brown had two touchdowns. Great week for AJ Brown. Just a bad week for Caleb, only putting up 4 points. And if he would have just had an average quarterback performance, that might have been enough for him to beat Stun. Up next, we have Sokol beating Ryan. So Sokol, the story of his season is just JT just keeps on dominating running the ball. Like he's having an incredible season right now, leading the league in rushing and touchdowns by both pretty wide margins. And then for Ryan, the biggest takeaway I had was Joe Flacco actually looked like a competent quarterback in the Bengals offense. I had my concerns when the Bengals had made that trade is Flacco really that much of an upgrade, if at all, over Jake Browning? And surely enough, he is. Next, I have Jake over Levi. For Jake, Jamar Chase had 23 targets, which is absolutely insane. I did not see that coming. I think that's the third highest total in NFL history. Uh, Hell of a game for Jamar Chase. And then Jalen Hurts and Daniel Jones both continue to look pretty good. And then for Levi, Rashi Rice looks great he only played 40% of snaps and he still put up 20 fantasy points. So looks really good for uh, Rashi Rice moving forward. And then Tua, Levi's newest acquisition, which I'll get to later, struggled a bit in this rain game. Up next, I have Chaz beating Logan. For Logan, Charbonnet keeps on being a TD vulture for the Seahawks, which makes people who have Kenneth Walker probably pretty angry. And then for Chaz, CMC keeps doing what he does best and went off for 35 points. I think I've underestimated Chaz's team a little too much. Chaz's team's really fucking good. He's currently in second. The team's rolling. And then the last one on the ledger is Trevor versus Mark. I forgot to take notes on this one. For Trevor, Jackson Dart made his debut and he put up 28 points. Great debut for Trevor. Stafford also put up 27 points. And that was the only two players on Trevor's team to score more than 10. I take it back. Ramondre scored 16 as well. But yeah, the rest of Trevor's flex is all kind of disappointed this week. And then for Mark, Jahmyr Gibbs also put up 35 fantasy points. Devontae Adams had three touchdowns. Okay, I want to go back to that with Stafford and Adams. Stafford probably had the lowest scoring fantasy performance I've ever seen with five touchdowns because he only had 182 yards, but he did have five passing touchdowns. So kind of a crazy stat line. The really big one is Bo Nix making his debut for Mark. That was a game where I did a fantasy basketball draft during the fourth quarter of that game. Bo Nix had like four fantasy points going into the fourth quarter, and then I think the score was 19 nothing. And then all of a sudden the draft's over, and I see the score, and it's like, wait, the Broncos are winning? Bo Nix had a 35-point fourth quarter, putting up nearly 40 fantasy points at 39.96, so pretty much a 40 piece. Huge debut for Bo Nix on Mark's team. And then taking a look at the standings, Stun and Chaz are both in first at 6-1. Ryan and I are both 5-2. Mark and Trevor are both 4-3. Sokol and Levi are both 3-4. Jake and Beans are both 2-5. And Shrew and Logan are both 1-6. So the standings are all very symmetric right now. There's two teams with each of these records. So we're starting to see some teams break away, and then there's not as many teams in the middle of the pack as there once was. Probably see more of that moving forward. Draft order, I forgot to update, so I'm just going to skip past that. News and injury report and buys. So big one when we were watching that Lions Bucks game on Monday night is Mike Evans broke his collarbone. He's going to be out for most of the season, and it looks like yeah, that's just a big loss for my team. Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin are also out another week, so wheels up for other Bucks pass catchers, and then Rashad White for this upcoming week. Kendra Miller tore his ACL. He was starting to get a little bit more run in New Orleans. It's a shame. He was starting to finally show some flashes. Dennis Allen, he was in Dennis Allen's doghouse for whatever reason, and yeah, he's just hope he have a speedy recovery. Justin Fields got benched in the Jets game. What came as a bit of a shock after Aaron Glenn supported him. It sounded like the remarks that the team owner, Woody Johnson, had made it seem like he was not thrilled about Justin Fields being the quarterback at all. And I wouldn't be shocked with the way that the dysfunctional Jets have operated for years. There might be a call from upstairs that Field isn't starting for the near future, and it's going to be Tyrod Taylor's time to shine. Darren Waller was placed on IR. Minor loss for Ryan. I mean, he was starting him a little bit. I imagine he's going to be out for a while, and then being on the Dolphins, I imagine he's going to take his sweet ass time getting back onto the field. Bryce Young with an ankle sprain. They haven't exactly announced a timeline for him. He's going to be out this week for sure, and I'm expecting him to probably be out about 2 to 4 weeks with that ankle sprain. Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels was ruled out for this week. This is his second time appearing on the injury report now. I think he had a hamstring this time. With Lamar's hamstring, he's been out 3, maybe 4 weeks now. I wouldn't be shocked if Jaden Daniels is on a similar timeline. And then Brian Thomas, late in the Jags game, left with a shoulder injury. But with them being on a bye this week, we kind of don't really know a ton. And then some teams on byes this week: the Cardinals, the Lions, the Jags, the Raiders, the Rams, and the Seahawks. First week where a lot of teams are on bye, so we'll definitely start to see some depth being tested more frequently starting now. We had a lot of trades that happened in the past week. This first one happened last week, but I didn't cover it on the show because it hadn't happened yet. Was Levi receiving DK Metcalf, Tua, and a 2026 first in exchange for Bo Nix, RJ Harvey, and two-thirds. So breaking it down for each team. For Mark, it looks like he was doing mostly a consolidation trade where, I mean, I mentioned earlier in the season, Mark needed a QB2 upgrade. Bo Nix is a great QB2 upgrade for Mark. And then also got RJ Harvey and a pair of thirds. The extra draft capital is always nice to receive. And then RJ Harvey has been off to a start that you probably can expect a rookie running back to have, especially when you have a talented teammate like J.K. Dobbins. You got good draft capital. There's still plenty of time for RJ Harvey to turn it around. Just may not necessarily be this year unless there's a J.K. Dobbins injury. Then for Levi, he got DK Metcalf two on a first. I think Levi getting an additional draft capital in that first was pretty big for him. I think a lot of the issues Levi's had with setting a lineup this year has mostly just been a depth thing, and this certainly adds more depth into the starting lineup. DK's had a pretty good year. I know this past week's results weren't great because 2-0 again was playing a pretty bad weather game, and then Bonix put up a 40 piece, which I'm sure was kind of hard to stomach after when you make a trade and you see your players just pop off, it's always hard to stomach. But I mean, Tua is pretty locked in as the Dolphins starting quarterback. If you look at his contract, he's pretty much unmovable for this year and next. And even if he does move, like quarterbacks like Tua get second chances all the time. I mean, think about how many different teams Carson Wentz has started for, or how many different times, or like most recently, we're looking at Fields and Baker and Sam Darnold. Like, if have you ever shown a flash of anything in the NFL and were a first round pick, teams will give you another chance to see if they can be a successful reclamation project. I mean, there's usually been about one per year in recent history with like Baker and Sam Darnold and Geno Smith. It happens all the time. Daniel Jones this year is the seems like to be the big one. So if even if Tua gets removed from the Dolphins in whatever way, whether it's a trade or being cut, I still think there's a very damn good chance that he's a starter somewhere else. And yeah, just getting a 2026 first. Just good process. This one happened this morning, so I'm recording this on Thursday, October 23rd at 6:30 p.m. I traded Marcus Mariota to Sokol for Josh Dobbs in the 2026 third from Ryan. I had access at starting quarterback for this week. I didn't really need to start Mariota, and so I figured it's a good time to cash out. My thought process is a starting quarterback, pretty much in any circumstance, is always worth at least a third round pick. And so I got that third round pick from Sokol, and then I got Josh Dobbs. He's a backup who I like quite a bit. He's probably not worth a ton unless he's actually playing, but I've always, you guys know, I like hoarding and collecting backup quarterbacks. And then Sokol this week needed a starting quarterback with Jared Goff on a bye and no Bryce Young this week. He didn't have another option, so Sokol gets a quarterback for this week. And Mariota's been a damn good fantasy quarterback when he has started. I think in his past four starts, he's been QB 16 or better, and with three QB1 type weeks. I mean, QB1 just means top 12. But yeah, I think Sokol got, I mean, he's going to get his couple starts out of Mariota more than likely, and I think that's just going to be good for him overall. It's also interesting because I play Sokol this week, so if I lose because I traded the Mariota, you live with the decisions you make. But you ultimately, I want to do things that make my team better. Speaking of which, a few hours later, we have this absolute blockbuster of a trade where I send Kyler Murray, Breece Hall, Dylan Gabriel, Jacoby Brissett, and two second round picks to Levi. And in return, I got Drake May, Jalen Noel, Mason Rudolph, and then two 27 thirds. A lot to take in with this one. Earlier, when I said Levi's biggest issue was more of just like number of starters in a starting lineup, like quality starters. This was another, just taking one asset and splitting it into multiple. And then for me, it was consolidating talent a little bit. With Drake May, I mean, I'm a big Josh Allen guy, and the kind of the hope here is Drake May is the next Josh Allen. We'll see if that's actually the case, but I mean, I have obviously high expectations now that I traded for him. Which is also part of the reason why I like low key wanted Josh Dobbs earlier today, was just to make sure I could sneak him in as a backup quarterback in that trade. Just because I had a feeling that this was going to happen. I wasn't 100% sure I was going to, Levi was going to pull it, or was going to do it with me. I know he was shopping Drake May with a few teams, but I ended up being the one with Drake May. I now have his backup. I now have Mason Rudolph, who's Aaron Rodgers' backup. So I do control the QB rooms of the Patriots, Steelers, and Cowboys in case I do have any injuries, which I have put in value of handcuffing my own quarterbacks in the past and present, obviously. So yeah, excited for to receive all these pieces. And then for Levi, he gets additional draft capital, which again I think will help him make additional moves towards building out a stronger starting lineup. Dylan Gabriel, Levi does have Shedeur Sanders, so Levi now has the Browns quarterback room locked up and has the Cardinals quarterback room locked up, both for Brissett and Kyler Murray, and then also got Breece Hall for me. Well, definitely was not easy for me to trade Kyler Murray. I mean, he was my first round pick in the startup draft, and he's someone who, if you look at the numbers, like in the historically for fantasy football quarterbacks, like throughout NFL history, Kyler Murray's been a top 10 fantasy quarterback all time. If you look at it by points per game, definitely was not easy for me to trade him. Uh, I just, yeah, sometimes you just got to go after elite talent. I just like getting elite talent. Yeah, I really hope Kyler Murray succeeds with Levi. He's one of my favorite players to watch in the league. When things are clicking with Kyler, he is so much fun to watch. And then with Breece Hall being shipped off, Levi gets one of his favorite running backs back home after I've had him for about the past two full seasons now. And Breece Hall is someone I still really believe in the talent. he really still passes the eye test. I think he's looked explosive and is really having a good year. Just that Jets offense is so bad. And then with Fields getting benched, I don't really know what it's going to look like. I know the Jets do play the Bengals this week, so there's a chance that Brees Hall absolutely pops off. And I really hope he does for Levi. Overall, I think this is a trade that's good for both sides. I get an upgrade at my quarterback 1/2. I think Drake May and Dak will be about the same rest of the season. I know Dak has been a little bit better to this point. Then yeah, Levi's getting a pretty good quarterback, pretty good running back. Additional QB3 and Gabriel, who will probably be starting this week, and then good draft capital in return. So trade I think is going to work out well for both sides. And wish those guys I traded the best of luck. Looking at our upcoming matchups, so I'm against Sokol this week, which I also when I mentioned I traded Mariota. So definitely just made it a little bit harder on myself to win. If I lose, so be it. I did it to myself. Stun versus Mark should be a pretty good matchup. We have Beans versus Shrew. We have Levi versus Trevor. We have Jake versus Logan. And then Ryan versus Chaz. So this is a pretty big week. I'm just gonna start at the top here. Big week for Sokol. If he can win this one, they'll put him at 4-4, and I think we'll put him in the thick of the playoff picture. If he falls to 3-5, I don't think he's totally out of it yet, just because there's a handful of teams in the middle playing this week. Like Stun versus Mark is a big one. If Stun wins and Mark loses, that's a huge win for Sokol. I don't think I mentioned this earlier. Mark scored 175 points for the third straight week. Mark's team is definitely the best 3-week total I've ever seen. I just want to throw that out there. I can't remember if I mentioned that earlier or not. Because the guy I forgot to take notes on Mark's team. But yeah, hell of a week this past week for Mark. But yeah, anywho, yeah, big week for both of them. Mark won't have Gibbs, and then maybe some other players on by. I would have to double check. Beans versus Shrew. I mean, looks like Beans is favored pretty heavily at the moment. I mean, yeah, Shrew's just not having a great season. He's currently in 11th. This is a matchup of 10th versus 11th. A win for Beans would actually quietly put him back into the playoff picture. He did say on in the group chat earlier this week that he is thinking about selling off Lamar, Cortland Sutton, and Terry McLaurin. So Beans might be an interesting person to hit up in a for a trade if you're looking for some production of players, or looking to make a blockbuster for Lamar Jackson. Would be a massive trade. We have Levi and Trevor looking to be a pretty close matchup. Now, especially now that Levi has a few, like he has Brees Hall now in his lineup, and that has, I mean, he has a downgraded quarterback with Gabriel from Drake May this week, but he'll have Kyler back next week. And, yeah, Trevor's team's just injured at the moment, so that matchup might be really close. And again, another one of huge playoff implications as Levi's 3-4 and Trevor's 4-3. We have Logan versus Jake. I mean, Jake's a pretty big favorite in this one. Jake's 2-5 and Logan's 1-6. We'll see. I mean, if win for Jake, he's I think at 3-5 at the out on the outside looking in, but he could only be at a game out of the playoffs after this week, realistically. And then lastly, Chaz versus Ryan. Two people I had sent offers for with Mariota. Both of them have needed a quarterback this week, or at least for a QB2. Neither of them accepted. Ended up sending him to Sokol, which would have been interesting if I would trade Mariota to either of them. But yeah, Chaz is favored right now, 118 to 105. Big win, big week for the both of them in terms of playoff seeding. And then yeah, just that's something I've actually found pretty interesting about this week is like the four teams at the bottom are all against each other. A lot of teams at the top are all against each other, and the teams again in the middle are all against each other too. Just kind of interesting how the schedule played out this week. Okay, and now time for the special segment. This is one I wanted to do last year, never ended up doing, but doing it this year. So I want to rank everyone's football setup for how they watch it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and do a blind. Well, these are ranked in my order. I'm not going to share who each one is. This will definitely be better an experience on YouTube and Spotify. I'll try my best to describe for the people listening on Spotify, but frankly, you should probably just watch the YouTube video for this one 'cause it's me describing images. English isn't my best language. I'm not very artsy or creative. So try my best here to explain what I'm seeing. But yeah, highly recommend switching over to YouTube if you're listening to this on Spotify. So in last, I have this setup. It looks like it's someone who's a gamer. As I see a PS5, see a coffee table, and then there's two TVs set up here. Looking like the primary TV looks to be about 32 inches. Smaller TV might be about 24 inches. It's also looking like the smaller TV is blocking a hallway, which I find interesting. But yeah, the reason why I ranked this one last is just like, again, some of the things I was looking at was comfort, size, girth. I don't know, maybe not girth, but yeah, size of the TVs just looked a little smaller. And then like the second one really isn't elevated all that high. Yeah, this person is ranked. There's seven people who submitted them. This person's ranked seventh. I was gonna be really mean and make some jokes about people who didn't submit TVs or their living room setup. Or if you watch football on your phone, maybe make fun of you a little bit. Like if you live with your parents, I might have made fun of you that your mom might not let you watch TV. Or if you live with your girlfriend or spouse, make the same joke about you have to ask permission to watch football. I decide I'm not gonna be mean towards any individual person here. I do appreciate everyone sending a picture in though. Getting 7 out of 12 is something I'm happy with. But yeah, this person's I'm ranking last. In sixth place, I have this one. I'm sure some of this is just the lighting because it's a pretty dark picture. The Lions are on, which is a huge plus. I mean, it looks like two pretty good sized TVs. Looks like it's two different TV stands. Looks like there's some nice floor, nice window. There's just not really not a lot in this image. I don't really know what the rest of the setup looks like. It's kind of hard for me to rank this one higher, but it's above the last one because both TVs look better and look to be seem to be on proper TV stands, which is a huge plus in my book. But yeah, better lighting, I might have ranked this one higher. In fifth place, I have this one. Looks to be a pretty nice size TV. It's also mounted to the wall. Always gotta love that. It looks like there's a switch here, a pretty nice TV stand, some nice decor. Maybe someone who lives with a significant other. Looks like there's a basket full of dog toys next to the TV. Yeah, I like the setup. It's pretty nice. Uh, Again, wish I would have seen a little bit of furniture in the photo, but sometimes when your furniture is against the wall, how the fuck do you take a picture of that? Which to that, it's like, I don't know. Get creative, I suppose. Yeah, I like the setup. I mean, it does feel very homey. It does look very nice. The previous two looked more like something I would consider maybe a single man lives there versus this one looks like someone who might be living with a partner with how nice the setup looks. And third, pretty similar setup. Uh, I think really the only reason why I rank this one higher is, again, this photo just felt a little more artsy to me. I really like the coffee table in this one. I like seeing the fireplace next to the TV. I like the TV stand, like the TV. Although I will say, maybe I would actually re-rank these, move the other one up higher because I do like that greenish colored TV stand versus this one just being black. But again, I think the color of the wall contrasts as well. I think some of it's just the lighting too. I really like the lighting. Both these people have plants. This one has some Halloween decorations set up. Yeah, I think the fireplace is actually probably the subconscious reason why I ranked this one a little bit higher. Yeah, just looks like a nice TV stand, nice setup overall. In third place, there's this one. This person has three TVs set up in their living room. Looks like they're all very different sizes and very different ages and televisions. I see a Switch and a Wii and a PlayStation. Looks like a sectional. I see a tablet. Lighting's pretty good though. I think this person is almost certainly a single man, just given the fact that, or at least lives alone. The fact that there's just three TVs in the living room and it looks pretty cramped in that space. But I will give it credit for there being three TVs. There wasn't too many people who had as much of a setup like this. And yeah, you definitely see the art in the background looks very nice as well. This one I think was pretty good. Up next, I got a twofer here. This one looks more like a restaurant, with a little bit of a logo of an M on it. There's TVs all over the walls. There's TVs everywhere. I really like how homey it feels inside of this place. With the wooden walls, the log cabin-esque style, all the up north decor. It just feels very much like Northern Michigan, which is something that I appreciate and respect for the person who submitted this one. Looks like they're able to watch multiple games at the same time as well, with all the different TVs up. Yeah, this is a great place to watch football. And if my number one ranking, I received a video, so I'm just going to hit play here. I really don't want to talk over it, but it looks like Tigers fans are welcome. And with all the sports memorabilia, I guess there's a keyboard there. Looks like we have an office for remote work setup. Definitely feels like the stereotypical man cave. And then, yeah, it looks like we have a couch, some more sports memorabilia. It actually looks like a sectional, so very good for hosting others. Definitely looks like a basement of the ceiling. There's a bar, there's a fridge, and a pretty nice sized TV. So yeah, the reason why I have this one at number one is this looks like a designated man cave. Obviously, the perfect place to watch sports. It looks like there's a sign to Michigan State basketball by Sam Izzo as well. Yeah, great setup, great sports memorabilia, and look at this action shot of the whole room. Yeah, the sectional really draws it all together. That's why that one's ranked one. It like very clearly is a room dedicated towards watching sports. So I'm gonna go through and reveal whose each one is. So in last place, to the shock of no one, this is Shrew's setup. I think one of the TVs is Shrew's roommates. I know the PlayStation for damn sure ain't Shrew's. Yeah, I think just the lack of art on the wall. I don't really see what the couch looks like, the size of TVs. This was an easy one for me to rank last. Up next, I have Stun. Stun does have two TVs. I would have ranked it higher. Actually, I might just rank it higher. I don't know. This ranking doesn't really matter. I just have it lower just because, again, the photo is very dark. It's kind of hard to see what's going on in it. But he does have the lines on, which is a match to W in my book. Yeah, that's a good setup. I probably should rank this one higher. I don't really know what I'm saying. I'm just yapping. Did I say it was Stun? If I didn't, this is Stun's. Stun has this two TV setup of two matching TV stands. TVs are of different sizes, but yeah, I think it looks good. I know this is in his office as well. Up next, this is Ryan's living room. Uh, Again, I really like the wood floor. I really like I mean, the TV being mounted is pretty cool. The TV stand looks very nice. Yeah, just a very good TV setup overall. And the Lions had just scored a touchdown, which maybe that's why I give it some bonus points. Yeah, just seems like a solid setup overall. Just like doesn't matter. This one's definitely third on my list now that I'm re-ranking them live. This one, or no, I guess I put it at fourth. Who the fuck cares? It doesn't matter. This one is Mark's. Looks like Mark has some decorations up. I mean, I think the decor in this home is very nice. It's all thematic. It looks good. Looks kind of like the modern millennial interior design. I don't know if that's insulting or not, or if it's complimentary. So you decide however you want to interpret that. But I do like all the spooky decorations that are hung up. Yeah, it just seems like a solid TV setup overall. Mark originally sent me a screenshot of his phone. He's saying this is how I usually watch it. That one would undoubtedly have been ranked last, but with this setup, I think this one's fine. So this one with three TVs set up, yeah, this one's me. Um, I it was only two up until this past weekend, but Crystalline's mom, I gave Crystalline the TV on the right of this image because I got bought my new one, which is in the middle there. But Crystalline's mom had won a 50 and a 70-inch TV at work, like I think on the same day in some raffles. And so she no longer had the need for the 32-inch TV that's on the right here. So I was like, shit, well, I'll take it back if you don't want it. So yeah, I have three TVs in my living room. I I can watch as many games as I want. I guess only three. But yeah, this is my setup. I also, you can, if you look closely on the image on the left, you can see my bunny ears hanging out. I watch football on antenna. I'm very old school. I don't like paying for streaming services or nothing. I like my setup quite a bit. I have a sectional that's can seat a good number of people here as well. At number two, I have Levi. This is the Manitou restaurant in Michigan in Empire. It might be Honor. I can't remember. I should know this. Oh, I feel so bad. I'm gonna get flamed in the comments for not knowing where the Manitou is. I'm pretty sure it's Honor, Michigan, though. Yeah, it is Honor, Michigan. I said Empire. I was just too busy thinking about the Empire Sand and how they've gotten screwed over by some owner in the GDBA, who I will not disclose. Yeah, this is the Manitou in Honor. Very cool restaurant, very good place to watch sports. Has very good food. Highly recommend going there if you haven't. I'm pretty sure most of the league has dined here at some point, though. And at number one, the man cave belongs to Trevor. Not too shocked when you see the Tigers fans welcome. Trevor's a pretty big baseball fan, and then seeing all the Tigers memorabilia. You see the signed, I think pretty sure it's a signed No Sighter jersey. Signed Tom Izzo basketball, big Spartan guy. But yeah, the sectional, the dedicated man cave, the decor. This is what makes Trevor's number one for me. So let me know what you thought of my rankings. Maybe rank them yourself and let me know what you think. Thank you all for watching the GDFL podcast once again. Truly is awesome that you guys listen to this. I do it for fun, for shits and giggles. And I don't really know how to end this, so we'll just end it there. And I will see you all later.